Okay, everybody, we're going to go ahead and get started. It's 4 o'clock. I don't have my cheat sheet with me, so I'm going to wing it. We're going to call to order the June 18th meeting, and our first item of business will be to do our roll call. And I just touched that screen. I hope everybody's mic is on.
Mr. Blackburn? I'm here. Mr. Childress? Well, she said roll call. Would you rather me call the roll, or do you want to go around?
Let's go around the normal way,
Okay.
but thank you for doing that.
Rick Blackburn, Historic Zoning Commission.
Matthew DeBard Laban, Downtown Knoxville Alliance.
Tony Allen, Downtown Business and Development Rep.
Jared Worsham, Downtown Resident Representative.
Suzanne Taravella, Neighborhood Representative.
Lindsay Lanoy, Knoxville, Knox County Planning.
Josh Wright, Urban Design Representative.
Chris Ford, downtown. Red side. Sorry.
Melinda Woolert, Knoxville, Knox County Planning.
Dallas D. Armand, Knoxville, Knox County Planning.
Christina McGraw Stillery, City Law Department.
Mark Reel, City of Knoxville, Plans Review and Inspections.
Thank you, everybody. Next up is approval of the minutes. Has everybody had a chance to review the minutes from May 21st? And if so, do we have a motion to accept?
I'll make a motion to accept.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that one carries. All right, next up is our staff report. Lindsay, can you help us with that, please?
Yes, so the level 1 COA issued since the last meeting was a new subdivision plat at 320 Hiwassee Avenue. It measures 50 feet wide and extends 140 feet deep, so they're just correcting that lot of record. Meets the design guidelines as it recreates original lot lines and lot sizes.
Great, thank you. Then we'll move on to our certificates of appropriateness. The first one is item 6B25DT, and that is at 550 Main Street.
All right, so this is the installation of 3 new illuminated wall signs and 1 new illuminated monument sign. The 2 wall signs are located at the top concrete band of the building. And then there's another wall sign. These are all existing wall signs that will be replaced with new, with some revised text branding, slightly larger in size. The illumination will not be increased in any way. And then a new monument sign that's located at the front of the building. So as the proposed signs are illuminated, the board's review and approval is required. These reflect the recommended types for the Boulevard District. The sign designs are consistent with the existing signs in the contemporary building, and the visual scale of the signs will be minimized due to the building's height, so staff's recommending approval of 6B25DT as submitted.
Great, thank you. Is the applicant present? Do you have anything to add to Lindsay's comments? Okay. Then we'll open it up for discussion. We might ask you some questions, so if you want to come up, that would be helpful. And give us your name and address, please.
I'm Brittany Green, and I'm with Excel Signs LLC out of sign company outside of Broadway. Sorry, I'm not used to public speaking.
All right, do we have any comments or questions about Lindsay's comments? If not, we'll entertain a motion.
I will motion to approve per staff recommendation.
I will second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that one carries. Thank you. Next up on the list is the infill housing, and our first one there is 3C25IH for 2823 Johnston Street.
All right, so this application is for a new primary structure fronting Johnston Street. The case was postponed in March, and the applicant has submitted a new design since then. They are proposing a 2-story residence with fiber cement lap siding on all elevations but the facade, a block foundation, and a 9/12 pitch front gable roof. Parking is a concrete pad at the rear of the lot and is accessed via the side street, Delaware Avenue. So the adjacent properties are set back 24 feet and 27 feet from the front lot line, so the proposed 25-foot front setback is appropriate. The final site plan should include a walkway from the front porch to the street. Parking is a concrete pad at the rear and is accessed via the side street, which meets the design guidelines. And the applicant has received a variance from the Board of Zoning Appeals for impervious surface coverage. The block to receive new construction is characterized by modified Queen Anne cottages, craftsman bungalows, and infill construction. The 19-foot wide by 50-foot deep house is generally proportionate to the other houses on the block. However, the lot is only 30 feet wide, and the house does not meet the 12-foot minimum corner side setback of RN2. The house would need to be 13 feet wide or less to be in compliance with side setback requirements. The Design Review Board has the authority to issue setback variances with the certificate of appropriateness and may do so if it is necessary to realize the principles associated with the guidelines. Guidelines recommend that side yard setbacks be similar to older houses on the block, and the previous building on the property was approximately 27 feet wide. So the board should discuss the possibility of approving reduced side setbacks with the certificate of appropriateness. In the opinion of staff, the side setback variances would meet the principles of the guidelines. The 3-bay 2-story facade is taller than the context, which mostly features 1-story houses. While a 2-story house was approved on the block was approved by the board in February of this year, that house was approximately 24 feet tall, whereas this house is 30 feet tall and could exceed that height depending on grade. The design incorporates trim dividing the floors, which assists in breaking up the visual scale of the building. So the board should discuss the height of the proposed house. The house features a full-length, 5-foot deep front porch, recessed under a shed roof and supported by 3 8-inch square columns. While guidelines recommend that porches be at least 8 feet deep, the 5-foot deep porch is appropriate for such a narrow house. Guidelines also recommend that window and door styles be similar to existing houses on the block. The 1/1 single-hung windows are appropriate for the context, but a different front door should be selected to align with the neighborhood. That includes paneling and/or a square rectangular window instead. The facade and rear elevations feature sufficient transparency. To avoid large swaths of siding, the left elevation should be revised to include additional windows on both stories, and 1 window should be added to the street-facing right elevation. The 9/12 pitch front gable roof meets the design guidelines and the context, but could be reduced in pitch if necessary to minimize the height. The proposed materials meet the guidelines, however, the block foundation should be either parge-coated or clad in stucco. The facade is clad entirely in fiber cement, board, and batten siding, and guidelines encourage using the same siding material on all elevations. So this should be revised to lap siding to match the rest of the house, although board and batten could be used as an accent in the gable fields. And the final site plan should also include a tree in the front and rear yards. With that, staff is recommending approval of Certificate 3C25IH, subject to the following conditions. The final site plan to meet city engineering standards and to include a walkway from the front porch to the street and a native or naturalized shade tree in the front and rear yards. 1 window to be added to the right elevation and additional windows to be added to the first and second stories of the left elevation. And the primary siding material of the facade to be revised to lap siding, and the applicant to submit a revised front door specification to staff for approval.
Thank you, Melinda. Is the applicant present? No? Okay. Well, we can open it up for board discussion, but I guess we can't get any questions answered.
You could also postpone to the end of the agenda if you wanted to give the applicant some more time to join by Zoom or show up.
That's a good idea. What does everybody think about revisiting this one later in the meeting? Okay, we'll go ahead and do that. Do I need to do anything formal? Okay. All right.
I make a motion to place this at the end of the agenda tonight.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second to postpone this to the end of the meeting tonight. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we'll put this one on hold for a bit. Next up is item 6A25IH, which is 3112 Rector Street.
This application is for a new two-story duplex fronting Rector Street. The building features a 6/12 pitch side gable roof, an exterior of lap siding with cedar texture accent boards at the top of each story, and a black foundation clad in stucco. It features 2 adjacent 17-foot wide by 50-foot deep units, and parking is a concrete pad access from the alley. The applicant intends to use the middle housing standards, and review occurs separately through planning staff. The DRB review focuses on how the project meets the infill housing design guidelines. However, some elements of middle housing review may trigger site plan and building elevation revisions, which would require additional review by the board. The house is proposed to be set 21.9 feet from the front property line. The average of the block face is 15.8 feet, with the adjacent houses at 14 and 9 feet. The house should be moved to align with the front setback pattern of the block to meet infill guidelines and middle housing standards. Parking is a concrete pad accessed via the alley, which meets the design guidelines. The guidelines for multi-unit housing recommend that new multifamily buildings be designed in scale and context with the early architectural features of the neighborhood. The block to receive new construction is characterized by craftsman bungalows, modified Queen Anne cottages, and infill construction, and all of the houses on the block are 1 story. The duplex is generally proportionate to the dimensions of the lot and to other houses on the block, but it does not incorporate any details which align with the architectural context. The 35 4-inch 4-inch wide by 50-foot deep duplex is compatible in width with the existing houses on the block. However, it is approximately 5 to 10 feet deeper than the other houses, and the design attempts to break up the large side elevations with the bay window and trim separating the stories. Additionally, all houses on the block are 1 story, and the 2-story duplex features a 2-foot tall foundation, making it 35.5 feet tall at the roof peak. So the board should discuss the height and depth of the duplex. While the proposed 4-foot, 5-inch deep entry stoops supported by square posts are not 8-foot deep per the guidelines, similarly designed entry stoops have been approved for multi-unit buildings in the infill housing overlay. The 6/12 roof pitch is the minimum required for this roof line type in middle housing and is the minimum pitch approved by the infill housing guidelines. The large building may also benefit from additional variations in the roof line, particularly on the larger side elevations. The 1/1 double-hung windows and half-light doors are appropriate for the context. While all 4 elevations feature sufficient transparency, some revisions may be necessary to better align the buildings with historic context, including the irregular placement of windows on the side elevations. The elevation drawings feature vinyl lap siding with brick veneer and either shakes or board and batten accents, and a stucco-clad CMU foundation, all of which meet guidelines for materials. The final site plan should include a tree in the front and rear yard, and the lot has a few existing trees, which should be retained if possible. The board should discuss the proposed height and depth of the duplex within the neighborhood context, along with any necessary revisions or conditions. Staff recommends approval of Certificate CA25IH, subject to the following conditions. The final site plan to meet city engineering standards with major changes to the site plan to return to the board, the front setback to be revised to align with the front setback pattern of the block face, the final site plan to include a native or naturalized shade tree in the front and rear yards, and meeting all relevant standards of Article 4.6 and Article 9.J of the zoning code with minor revisions to be approved by staff.
Thank you, Melinda. Is the applicant present for this one? No. Okay. Well, should we postpone this one too? And
I don't anticipate.
they're showing up. Okay. Well, let's go ahead and talk about this one, realizing that we might need to postpone it to another meeting where the applicant can be here.
So we're talking about it now? Or,
Unless we have a motion to postpone it until another meeting.
okay.
Can you repeat again what the other houses, the height of the 1-story houses that are on the street as well?
I don't have exact height specifications of the other houses on the street, but all the other houses on both sides of the street are 1 story, not even 1.5 story. And this duplex will be 34.5 feet tall at the peak.
So I was just looking at the streetscape, and while I don't mind a bigger house, right? We need some density. We need the duplexes. I do want, especially if we're going to allow for that density, we need to make sure that that housing interacts with the street properly. And those little bitty front stoops are very different than the larger, more neighborly front porches that are typically required by the infill housing guidelines. And I think we need to keep that pattern, which is not shown on this house. And that, maybe it's stretching, but I think the the solid brick front is not well thought out. Yeah, I would agree with Josh on that. And I also think too, if you look at the neighboring houses to it, I think there is maybe more of a slope than what we can see based on what we were given in our packets. So I do think that there could potentially be more height off of the foundation based on what they have to do with site work.
Yeah, I'm noticing on that street view that nearly all the houses we can see on that street have big front porches.
I agree with everyone, with what everyone said. I think with Josh's comment on the brick facade, it seems like with the way that they're handling the roof with two gables, it's almost like they're trying to create a townhouse feel. I would want to take that even further if that is the intent. If not, I think it makes sense to make a single gable. I think a front porch would help to minimize that big block face, like Josh mentioned. So I think in terms of our recommendations, are we proposing recommendations for next month's meeting when they come back to us?
Yeah, the way I look at it is that we probably wouldn't approve this without significant modifications anyway, so we might as well give them some direction while we're here talking about it, and then they can try again.
I have a question about the front wall. Is the brick and the siding in plane, or does the brick part stick forward, or the siding part? I don't remember seeing a floor plan that really told me the footprint.
It looks like it sticks out, but it has siding on the side.
So like the brick part
Yeah.
protrudes but has siding on the side of the brick part.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I don't have real issues with the depth question that comes up, that it's deeper than the rest. The width is reasonable, but the height really is the height and its addressing of the street really is the issue. It comes up a lot more urban feeling than this sort of suburban neighborhood. So I'm not entirely sure how to address that. I'm okay with it looking more like one house because it's the width of one house, just with two doors. So I don't have, like we're talking about doing a single gable instead of the little twins there. If you had a single, that'd be more in keeping with the other houses, acting as a single house. But the height really does become the issue, and I don't know how low they can get their foundation height in order to help keep the overall height down. Or if they went with a hip main roof, that would significantly reduce its presence on the street. So that's sort of my ideas of ways to mitigate the height, because I do support higher density anywhere we can get it. So my comments primarily would be, let's make it look like one house, put a hip roof on it, and see what impact that has. I don't know really how to make the porches larger without wrapping them around that protruding brick portion there.
I think to piggyback on your comments, that the height doesn't bother me as much as the vertical emphasis on the design. I think if overall the height were the same, but it had a hip roof instead of the gable roof, and it had more horizontal elements across the front to make it look like one house, that I would be okay with that scale.
Yeah, houses like this, I always want a perspective, because standing at the street, that roof's gonna look a lot shorter because it pitches back. Not that I want to require that for these sorts of applications, but it's just a thought.
Yeah.
I think if the brick were to remain, I'd like to see it return back to, so it looks like one solid brick piece, or brick form, rather than just wallpaper stuck on the front.
Yep.
Yeah.
And what are the depths of these porches?
They're 4 feet 5 inches deep and like a little under 7 feet wide.
Is there room to make them deeper and still fit within the setbacks?
Yes.
Okay, so the porch could extend past that brick element and still provide, the brick element could still provide privacy from either side at the front entry, but provide that horizontal element across the front. Are there any other comments? We would call this a
I was just
proposal. I mean, go
looking
ahead.
back at the site plan, the footprint doesn't match the elevations. It has that front wall just straight.
Flat, yeah.
So we really don't know what exactly is going on there. So
Yeah.
some clarification of that might be good.
So we need a motion to, correct me if I'm wrong, postpone till the next meeting, and they can revise based on comments presented today.
And we'll share those comments with them.
I'll make a motion to postpone to the July meeting.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion to postpone and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that one carries. We'll move on to item 6B 25IH, which is 721 Oglewood Avenue.
Okay, so this is the after the fact review of revisions. This is after the fact review of work that's been completed. So these are kind of revisions to the COA that was issued for this address in June 2024, so a year ago. So on the screen right now are the elevation drawings of what was approved. And the conditions of approval were the typical ones about the site plan, and then the condition that this the chimney be clad in brick or omitted. And the applicant did opt to omit this chimney. The house is under construction, and it's sent back to the board after the building inspector identified several deviations from the approved plans. And so the porch still meets the minimum 8 foot in depth. It has, the porch supports have been modified from the approved kind of paired columns there. The porch has also, the foundation may still be under construction depending on the process of the builder. However, that's not shown currently. This was kind of a mid-construction photo. So the board should discuss whether modifications to those installed porch supports are necessary, if the 4 or 5 posts there are necessary, or if they should kind of be held to what's included on the COA. Overall, the windows as installed meet the design guidelines. Also, I need to give a little bit more of a description. Sorry. So the applicant has installed 1/1 single hung windows instead of the windows that were shown in the plans. Several of them were shown as paired windows on the facade and on the side elevation, and they've been installed as single windows. We can see those here. And the applicant has also revised the porch foundation from the brick piers with the lattice to a concrete block. That's their intent. The other major one was, as you can see here on the elevation drawings, they had a large gable form on the side elevation from the roof line. You can see that in the facade here, and that was not installed. So the removal of that side gable field and the upper window, they've also removed a front gable window and currently haven't built out any of the eave overhangs or the full cornice returns that are shown in the drawings here. So the roof does meet the design guidelines. The board pretty regularly does approve just a full front gable roof. It does lack the added complexity of the original design. And so the board should discuss if that additional complexity is necessary. Overall, the windows as installed meet the design guidelines. Again, we do typically approve the just simple single 1/1 double hung windows, but these did just dramatically vary from what was previously approved. The application also didn't specify siding material, and the siding is yet to be installed. So overall, the staff recommendation is to approve 6B25 IH, the changes, subject to the conditions that the window and door trim be included as shown on the plans. So just jumping back to that, they did have some additional window and door trim shown here. The final door specs be submitted to staff for review. The siding to be a horizontal clapboard style lap siding with an overlap. And then as shown on the site plan, the applicant continued to install the walkway from the porch to the street, the native or naturalized shade trees in the yards, and that parking accessed from the alley, which had not been developed yet either.
Okay, thank you. Is the applicant present for this one?
No.
Wowee, okay. Does anybody want to discuss this without the applicant here?
I think we have to have the applicant.
Yeah.
I have one comment I want to get in right away, which is, thank you, inspector.
Yes.
Kudos for plans review, inspections, people for catching this and bringing it back to our attention before it's completed. And someone else complains about it. So I just wanted to commend our trustworthy inspectors.
Yes, I concur with that. Thank you.
Some of these elements look like they're just not completed yet, and they're maybe temporary shoring or something, hopefully, but we got to hear from them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the right recommendation is to postpone until they can join us.
Oh, that's the last applicant. Yes. Okay.
Do we have a motion to postpone or anything else?
I'll make a motion to postpone to July.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to postpone till July. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that one carries. Next up, we have item 6C25IH, which is 0 Ohio Avenue.
So this is the application includes a new subdivision plat. So this is currently one approximately 150 feet wide lot fronting Ohio Avenue. They are aiming to subdivide the property into two lots that are approximately 50 and 100 feet wide. And then they are proposing a new 4-unit townhouse building fronting Ohio Avenue on the newly created lot. The townhouse building will be set 25 feet from the front lot line. The building is 2 stories tall at the front. It features a 5/12 side gable roof with 2-story front gable massings projecting from the facade of each unit. The exterior is clad in board and batten siding with horizontal siding as accents between the units on the facade. And then the parking is a concrete pad behind the building that's accessed from the alley. We can see the front and the side elevations here, and I'll run through some of the findings. So design review is is required for any subdivision approval within the infill housing overlay. These are typically approved by staff when the design meets the design guidelines. This doesn't clearly meet the design guidelines, so it can't be approved administratively. However, the newer lot doesn't, and because it does not recreate the historic lot widths, that's the specific guideline that relates to that. This won't prevent additional infill construction, as the other lot width may also permit additional units through the middle housing standards or even a single family house. And so again, this is a middle housing project as well. The building is proposed to be set 25 feet from the front lot line. The average setback of the block face is 19.9 feet. The adjacent houses are at 24 and 27. The middle housing standards require a specific 5 feet from the average of the block face, so the front setback should be revised slightly to be within 14.9 and 24.9 from the front property line. There are walkways to the front street. The parking is accessed from the alley, which is currently unimproved. The parking is very large. There are 8 parking spaces when approximately 3 would be required under the middle housing standards. The parking is going to require additional landscape buffers too, based on its overall size, along with potential additional conditions from city engineering. The location meets the design guidelines. However, the parking lot size should be reduced to be compatible with the character of the neighborhood. There's also a blue line stream that's visible on the property, which may prohibit alley access. So the applicant should work with city engineering to revise the site plan, reducing the overall size of the parking area and ensuring appropriate treatment to the stream. Any revisions which affect the placement, footprint, or design of the building would require additional review by the board. The block to receive new construction has shotgun houses, minimal traditionals, and ranches, and infill construction, all of which are also 1-story or 1-story with a basement level garage. This will obviously be taller than the context and doesn't have the details that align with that, although they are relatively modest houses with gable roofs. The guidelines also recommend that the height be similar to houses along the street. So this is 25 feet 4 inches tall on the facade. It does extend to a basement, an additional basement level on the rear elevation, responding to the slope of the site. The building is taller than the context. And so the board should discuss the height of the building, the townhouse units in the context. The building does incorporate bays or breaks in the front facade that continue the architectural rhythm of the block. There is, again, a greater height and scale on the side and the rear elevations than the context. The design incorporates the entry stoops for each unit, which are typically appropriate in scale for individual units, similar for those on multifamily construction. Overall, the facade and the rear elevation has sufficient transparency in windows to meet the design guidelines. The revisions should be made to the side elevation window patterns to address these 3 fixed windows, which are not aligned with the design guidelines and would be quite visible from the right of way. At least a 6/12 roof pitch is required in the middle housing standards to fulfill like the steep category, and that also is aligned with our design guidelines. And so the staff recommendation is several conditions: meeting the relevant standards of the base zoning, including Articles 4.6 and the principal use standards, revisions to the front setback to meet the middle housing standards, revisions to the side elevation, window design and placement, the 3 fixed windows, the roof pitch be revised to 6/12 or steeper, the siding be a lap siding with an overlap as opposed to the board and batten as shown. The final site plan retain existing trees as much as possible, including one in the front yard. And then the final site plan to meet city engineering standards with the overall parking area to be reduced in size, and access to meet the guidelines. Major changes to the site plan would return to the board for review. And then the new subdivision plat also should meet the subdivision regulations. Any major revisions to that would also return to the board.
Great, thank you for that, Lindsay. Is the applicant present? Hi. Can you give us your name and address, please?
Yeah, Eric Forstall, Ball Design Services. I am, PO Box is technically, 11519 Kingston Pike, 174, I think.
Great.
I don't mail myself very often, so I don't memorize the address very well. This is a complicated, challenging project, but a lot of fun. I had a good time with it. As you could tell with the side elevation and topo that we had the property surveyed. It is rather steep in the back of the property. A lot of the houses are set back at a certain distance. When you drive down the street, you're looking at various elevations. One side of the street is much higher, the houses sit higher. I tried to blend in and meet the standards while trying to maintain where it blends in with the neighborhood as far as the overall building height and the roof pitches. This is why I kept an overall 512 pitch roof with the gable ends in the front of the house at a 1212 pitch. Maintaining, trying to keep the size and proportions with the neighborhood rather challenging, which is also why I also set it back at 25 feet rather than the 20 feet that I could have done. I felt that with the slope of the grade and the building height kind of blended better with the neighborhood, which is what I was aiming for. I don't have a problem going to the 612. It really isn't going to impact very much if I do. That's not a big deal. As far as the board and bat siding, I don't have a problem changing that up a little bit. I do know that I can do some of the board and bat as an architectural element. I'm fine with that. That's not really a big concern for me as well. As far as changing with the windows, I'm great working with Lindsay. We can play with the windows all we want all day long. As far as the parking is concerned, if you can go back to the site plan, that southern lot, currently have already applied for the paper alley closure to close Ambrose Street on that side to eliminate that as a corner lot. It'll be our plan to do now there are 4 townhouses on that lot in phase 2. I have to work with engineering as far as the Blue Line Creek and the access for parking for these 2 properties. Still, I have to wait till the paper alley gets approved in order to do that. Happy, happy, joy, joy. That will dictate changes to the parking as well, as far as going from 8 to 4 and adding some more planters out there as far as breaking up the parking a little bit between the units. I'm planning on losing at least 3 parking spaces out of the 8 and go down to 5 potentially, where I have 2 parking spaces for each unit and at least 1 guest parking. And whether or not that has to be turned into a location for trash pickup, which is not included in any of the standard requirements. But one question I have not been able to get an answer on is, how do you access the trash? Is it going to be up on Ohio, or is it going to be down on the alley access down below? So I try to take that in consideration when I design the site plan. So landscaping in the front, we're going to add some planter boxes to the front of the house to blend in with the neighborhood to break it up. So any other questions?
Yeah, I have a question about the parking. Is the topography the reason that it's so far away from the alley? Okay.
Yeah.
And then what is the plan to get people down from the front of the house to the parking? Is there any kind of sidewalk or?
If you go back, do you mean to access Ohio from the
Well, how do you
parking?
get to the parking if you live at this place?
Okay, go back to the elevations. In the back right there I think that's the left elevation. You'll see, and in the rear elevation, we have a deck. Okay, below that in the basement, we have a second, if you go to the cross sections. I think it's 1 page up.
Oh, you have a stair out to grade from
Yeah.
the basement. Okay.
Yeah. We were gonna have a staircase outside, but we were able to make it work where it's inside the basement, so there'll be doors in the back that access the staircase going up into the units.
Great. Okay. That makes sense.
I kind of like the 512 pitch with the 1212s though. I think it kind of really worked well with the street with the different elevations. That whole area right there is just like high up here, down below here, and try to blend it.
Yeah, I like the 1212s. Also, I'm wondering about how those valleys drain and what the downspouts look like at
There'll
the
be a
front there.
cricket in between the gables. There will be a cricket down there, just,
Okay. And then downspouts between the units?
into a French drain. I don't like water running into property. I prefer a French drain, it drains out.
And then the only other thing is the amount of board and batten siding. I like the board and batten on the individual townhouse units in the front, but I think that the horizontal makes more sense going around the rest of the building.
Now, the side elevations, currently all board and bat, if I was to break that up where the top half was siding and maybe the bottom was board and bat, I was thinking about that while while you guys were talking, having it up, or maybe mixing it up where I can have, more than one material on the side elevations.
You can have more than one material on the side elevations. I think it's just important that the board and batten looks like an accent and not like a full field.
Okay.
Yeah, I would see it more the other way, to where the bottom half would be traditional siding and the board and bat would treat the upper level like it was a dormer or something as an accent rather than as the main body. But
Okay.
my primary concerns here are the site.
Sorry?
My primary concerns are the site. I mean, that is a blue line stream, which also comes with a 50-foot riparian zone that you're supposed to stay out of. You're an interior lot on an alley that doesn't exist. I think that the challenges of engineering are going to really be difficult in getting any parking back there aside for your boat. Stream's not that big, but it's that's the hardest thing, I think, to get worked out here. I have less issues with the various design details. I think you can address most of those. The scale, the fact it's higher is less important, as you pointed out, because it's on the low side of the street. You're building somewhat in a hole. But the other site-related issue is the enormous brick wall. What is that? Why is it there? And does it have to be?
The enormous what?
Brick wall. The renderings show a huge brick wall down the newly created property line.
Oh, yeah, that retaining wall.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's just the property line. When my designer uses her Revit, that's what she used to break the line.
Okay,
That's
so
not
that's
how-
not there.
No.
Okay.
No.
I was
mean,
really
think
puzzled.
The cost to build that would kill the project,
Right,
and I'm
like-
not building an overpass, no, I'm not building a tunnel.
Aqueduct.
Yeah, she just put that in there as a break between the property lines. That's not existent.
Yeah, and closing Ambrose and creating another lot there, I think that's not out of line with the infill desires. It almost looks like you took a group of shotgun houses and shoved them together.
I'm sorry?
It almost looks like you have a group of shotgun houses that were shoved together, you know, the individual narrowness of each.
Yeah, I played with the lot. We played with different variations of setting back the individual units a couple feet back and forth to see what, and that was just, it looked horrendous. I didn't like it. This final version, I actually felt was probably the best fit for the design of the project. My biggest concern, and I'm sure it's yours as well, is trying to blend it in with the rest of the neighborhood.
Well, I wonder if there might be some advantage to developing the sites together, especially if you reach a point where you cannot have an alley, to where you've got to come and go off of Ohio. I think that's going to have a dramatic impact on how the sites are developed. So I'm not sure where to proceed with phase one here, in a way, realizing that may happen. So I'll be eager to see an approved site plan by engineering. And I suspect it will be significantly different from this, and we'll see you again.
Oh, when I read the staff recommendations, I already knew we were gonna be seeing each other again. I didn't have a problem with that. I already have to go back through for phase two anyway. I'm not gonna move forward past, phase one really without having phase two developed, because that wouldn't be smart. But yeah, I know there's gonna be some type of impact. I gotta get this portion approved, passed, in order to go to engineering. Because they was like, well, we need feedback from everybody else first. And I'm like, okay, well, this is step one before I can go to step two. Yeah, well, it's what I get paid for, so.
Okay, do we have any other comments about the design?
I'll just say I really like it. I think it's subtle, it's scaled right, and I appreciate the good pitched roofs. I don't think having to go to a 6 and 12 is actually necessary since we have dramatically pitched roofs on the front to give it the texture that we want. So if nobody else has any comments, I'll make a motion to approve per staff recommendations, but eliminating the number 4. And I'll also say I appreciate you being willing to work with the staff to get it kind of fine-tuned.
Yeah, this is part of the job that I actually enjoy.
Okay, we have a motion.
Question, Josh, would you want to add anything on the side elevations as far as the different materials that was discussed?
Oh, I thought that was in there about, it was going either to.
Is it in there?
Horizontal.
It is a little more restrictive than what the board had just discussed. So maybe a number 5 could be revised slightly.
Would you like to make a friendly amendment?
Well, I think you said it best already.
Well, it was to allow a mix on the sides, such that the horizontal is the base, would read as the primary material, and the board and batten reads as an accent.
Yeah, I'm on board with that.
I will accept that amendment to the motion.
I'll second that motion.
Do you all need anything restated or clarified? You good? Okay. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that one carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. It's always so much fun when these go so quick.
Okay, everybody, we're going to revisit the first one that we talked about, which is 2823 Johnston Street. And has that applicant arrived? Okay, great. So that's 3C25IH. And Melinda already took us through that one. If we could get the drawings up just to refresh our memories real quick. Do we have comments? Actually, is the applicant able to hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, great. Earlier, Melinda took us through all the comments. Have you had a chance to read the comments from the staff?
Yeah, I have briefly.
Okay.
Through the email.
Great. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and discuss your project and ask some questions, and then we'll do our vote. And we have the comments from staff up on the screen right now. Can you put those elevation drawings back up, please? Thank you. Okay, so one of the comments was that we needed more windows on the side elevations, particularly the left side. Do you have any issues with that?
I didn't put more windows on the left side because that's the side that meets the other house. It's very close to the other house. I don't know if you guys wanted more windows or if it'd be necessary to put more windows.
Typically it is, even though it's close to another structure, because we don't, each structure has to kind of stand on its own, and if the structure next to it went away or changed, then we would still want to see windows on that elevation.
Gotcha. How many more windows would you guys like to see there?
Well, they need to be both on the top level and the bottom level, but we don't have a prescribed number as far as we're concerned.
Okay. Could we do like 1 and 1, one on top, one on the bottom?
I think so. The other issue is there's a few alignment misalignments that are happening on the right side where it looks like those windows are almost aligned top and bottom, but not quite. And it would be nice to kind of have that tidied up and make sure that all the windows stack.
I think for where that is misaligned is the top one was in a bedroom and the bottom one was evened out with like the fireplace insert for the living room.
Well, maybe the one in the bedroom can scooch a little bit to help get those lined up.
Are we able to pull up the floor plan for the upstairs? I think it's I can't remember if it's all the way against the wall already to the other bedroom.
Okay. And that's also something to consider when you add the extra windows to
Yeah.
make sure that they look tidy.
I gotcha.
Does anybody else have comments?
I know there was mention of both the height and then the width being variations. The height, I think, was 30 feet instead of 24 being the average on the street.
All other houses on the street are 1 or 1.5 story, but back in February, we did approve a 2-story house that will be nearby, and that one was 24 feet. And this one is going to be approximately 30 feet tall at the roof peak, although it could vary a little bit based on grade as they showed in the elevations.
And then I don't know if it's a variation, but out of the guidelines on the width.
So the width of the house is compatible with that of surrounding houses. So the issue more so with the width here is that this is a 30-foot lot, and so it doesn't meet corner side setbacks, and it would only have to be, like, the house can only be 13 feet wide if they actually wanted to meet the setback standards of RN2. So y'all have the authority to issue a variance via the certificate of appropriateness if you think it's necessary to, keep a consistent rhythm of the streetscape.
I think it's appropriate to do that to keep the viability of the project and also create the density that we're generally looking for. And I actually don't have a problem with the height overall as long as the structure is well proportioned. I think if we want to foster density in our neighborhoods, then we're going to have to allow 2-story structures.
I agree.
Yeah, I would agree too. And Melinda, in your review, didn't you say that the previous structure was actually closer to the property line than what this is proposed?
It was 27 feet. It was like a vernacular commercial building, so it took up the entire lot.
It was basically a 0 lot line, cinder block, corner store.
One thing about the front elevation that I think would be helpful is if there was some kind of break at the gable line. Keeping the board and batten all the way up to the eaves makes it look even taller. And I think if we had a break there, either with a different pattern on the siding or just a trim board line, that would help the overall appearance of the height.
I think the staff recommendation was to change the front elevation to horizontal siding. And though they could keep the board and batten in the gable, I think, like you're saying, to differentiate and break it up further. I mean, the porch thing helps break up its height too, but I think the horizontal from the eave down would be more in keeping.
I agree.
I have a couple comments. I think I'm a little, I guess, sad because this is such a prominent corner. It seems like that side elevation facing the other street needs some sort of more activation. I think previously I had recommended maybe potentially adding a wraparound porch in the corner or adding a bay window at that dining area or something just to add more prominence. I kind of stated that as my condition for approving a 2-story house in the corner was that it have a little bit more character and a visual interest on that corner. And especially since it projects past the other houses on that block, it's a very prominent house, doubly so since it projects almost to the street. And so personally, I'd like to see something interesting happen at the dining space, whether it's even 2 ganged windows or a projecting bay or something like that. I don't know if anyone else has any thoughts on that.
I agree. Would you like to make a motion?
Let's see, Lindsay, can you go back to, yeah, there. I'll make a motion per staff recommendation. Let's see, with the primary siding material being horizontal siding on the front, but can still keep the board and batten in the gable, and then adding some a more prominent feature on the side street elevation, either at the dining space or elsewhere on the ground level.
I have a question on that part real quick.
Sure.
For you're saying a prominent feature. When we went through the approval process for the variance, I had to try pretty hard to get the width of the building, in the requirements, because we do meet the 15-foot, I believe, or on the side setbacks. If we do like an extended bay window or protruded part of the house on that side, it wouldn't meet those requirements at all.
There are some permitted encroachments into the side setbacks.
So there was a variance approved for this project for impervious surface coverage. And so that wouldn't be an encroachment. That's just a percentage of the lot.
But just to be clear, the project could have some elements that encroach into that corner side setback?
So a 12-inch projecting bay or 16-inch projecting bay, or even a ganged double window like you have in the back on the side might pick up the sort of character we're asking for, especially up closer to Johnston Street than that blank area.
Yeah, and I would support a setback variance, if you did want to go with the projecting bay. But although I think the projecting bay it falls within one of the accepted features that can go beyond the setback.
Gotcha. But a gang window does also meet the requirements you guys are asking for?
Yes.
Okay, I gotcha. I'll probably look into that.
We have a motion.
I'll second that motion. I'd like to add a little clarification to the additional window on the right side, requesting that the ground floor one be close to the front. So since this house does stick out a little, that keeps our blank from sticking forward there. Just already have the request of 2 additional windows on the right side, one up, one down, that the one down be close to the front. Yeah.
So just to clarify, Perry, the one that you're talking about is the right side.
Correct. We had discussed earlier about adding 2 windows, one up, one down there. If the one down would be forward, because I understand it's concerned with looking out your window and handing, sugar to the neighbor, being so close on that side. But if that window were toward the front where it would
Actually get some light and view.
get light and be seen as you drive by so it doesn't look blank.
Yeah.
Was that clear enough? Or
I believe the windows we were going to add one on the top and one on the bottom was the left side.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the right side is the one facing the street.
no, you're right. Left was that one, and then right's where we want the feature up toward the front. Yes, sorry.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
I accept that amendment.
Okay. Did you all track with all that? Okay. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that one carries. Thank you. Okay, so that wraps us up for the certificates of appropriateness. We have some other business related to some statements of appreciation for the folks leaving the board and nominations for chair and vice chair for next year. So we want to thank Josh for all of his service, both as chair and as our board member for so long. And we will certainly miss you, but good luck in your future endeavors.
Thank you very much. You guys are doing important work. Keep it up.
Yeah. You can just come hang out if you want.
Yeah, that's what I'll do. I'll be before you probably, and you can get on to me about stuff.
Okay, that sounds great. And Chris, I didn't realize that you were rolling off the board until today. So thank you for joining us, and you will also be missed. And
I can do this part.
yeah, Lindsay's going to take us through the next part.
So we'll do just kind of have nominations. So these are in your minds. And then we'll do the election at the July meeting. And if there's, obviously for the election, if there's someone else that we want to add or change, or somebody changes their mind about that, that's totally fine. But the intent of this is just to kind of get it in everybody's minds. So I'll start with the chair for 2025-2026, just to open the floor for nominations for chair of the Design Review Board.
I'd like to renominate Suzanne.
Okay, great. I don't think that's something we need like a second or any, just for nominations. Okay, cool. Any other nominations? Okay. And then
One important thing, does Suzanne accept the nomination?
If nobody else wants to do it, then I'll do it.
great. Okay, and then I'll open the floor for nominations for vice chair for 2025-26.
I'll nominate Jared to stay in that role.
Okay.
If he's willing.
I accept.
Okay, anyone else? All right. Hearing none, we'll vote on that at the next meeting. Yeah, and that's it.
All right, good deal. Okay, then we will adjourn. Thanks, everybody.